Good evening. Just days after that railroad bridge collapsed in Tempe, 4 men were arrested over the weekend for trespassing on a separate railroad crossing in Queen Creek.
And as Joe Dana reports, the men were there to spread a hateful message.
These 4 guys arrested claim allegiance to a hate group that 12 News has decided not to name so that it doesn't get any more publicity than it already has. Saturday morning, drivers near Ellsworth Loop Road and Rittenhouse were disturbed to see a banner praising Hitler on the overpass that serves as a train bridge. The Maricopa County Sheriff's Office arrested 4 men between the ages of 28 and 37 for trespassing. They were caught taking photos and posing with the banners before their arrest.
The Jewish community is always vigilant against any kind of hate speech.
Paul Rockauer is executive director of the Jewish Community Relations Council and says he's hesitant to give these kinds of acts too much attention because that's what they want.
It's unfortunate that these, individuals would stoop to such stupidity, like that you're going to go, climbing out over bridges and hanging up, really offensive, hateful material.
Over the weekend in Torrance, California, another overt act of racism after Gregory and Rachel Howell were arrested for a road rage hate crime. An image from an Instagram video captured by the Washington Post shows Gregory Howell flashing the Nazi salute during a tirade against another driver. Howell's accused of smashing the driver's car with a shovel while yelling "white power." Such incidents hint at a larger trend. The FBI yearly report on national hate crime shows that while crime generally has gone down, violent hate crimes were up in 2019.
People who don't have a strong enough sense of history or their own identity, and so they gravitate towards these hate communities that, give them this little hit of feeling like they're accepted. But, unfortunately, this is just a path that leads nowhere.
The 4 men arrested don't have records. They told deputies on scene that they were exercising their First Amendment rights. The sheriff's office says they're not pursuing this any further, except they will pass the case on to the town of Queen Creek for possible zoning violations. Joe Dana, 12 News.
All right, Joe, thank you.